Good morning everybody.
Good morning.
Let's have a seat, please. Welcome everyone, welcome to those who are coming for the first time. It's a pleasure to have you here. I welcome everybody else who has been here for a while. Welcome those who are watching us through the internet. Today it's a great day. We continue our studies of the books from Chico Xavier and André Luiz, who is a spirit who brought to us a lot of knowledge about the spiritual world. It really helped us to understand how things are after death. So we are studying these books through the whole month, and today we'll have a little glimpse of one of those books called Evolution in Two Worlds. So the lecture today will be about that book. But before we get there, we will start with our initial prayer and our initial reading with our friend and brother Tiago. And the lecture today, Carlos, will be from by our brother Rafael Oliveira, and he will pick a specific area of that book, and the topic will be evolution of the sexual instinct. Very important topic for all of us. So without further ado, Tiago, please.
So the reading today will be from the book Happy Life, written by the Spiritist Joana de Angelis through Divaldo Franco's psychography. Whenever you can, bathe in the moonlight of prayer. Create mental space and search for the sources of life where you will find fine, pure energy and peace. All the saints and mystics who have changed humanity's moral course for the better in the East or West are unanimous in recommending prayer as the most effective resource to preserve oneself or attain inner harmony. Jesus maintained friendly relations with the disciples and the people, but still reserved time to talk with God through prayer and exalting the excellence of these sublime conversations. So leave the tumult you are submerged in and move in the direction of the oasis of prayer to refresh and bathe yourself in peace. And now, following the advice of the benefactor spirit Joana de Angelis, we search for a moment of inner peace, and we put in practice in these brief moments the conversation with God as the source of life, our Father, our Creator, and Creator of this entire universe that is our home. And we thank God for all the life, all the light, for all the models and examples that He had given us. In special, our Master and Brother, Jesus, the most perfect being that walked through this earth to give us guidance, to give us a north, to help us to pray, to relate with each other, and to progress. And we also thank the Toronto Spiritist Society and all its workers from the spiritual side and the material side for tirelessly working to make this place an oasis, a house of prayer, a house of learning, and a house of charity for us. And we also like to say thanks and ask for the help and intuition from the good spirits that accompany us, and especially our brother Rafael during this morning for the lecture that he is going to present for us. May he be inspired by the good spirits, and may we all be open for the lessons that we're going to learn today. So let's be in peace. Thank you, and so be it.
So be it.
Rafael, all yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm very happy to be here for the first time. I can confess that I have a lot of butterflies. This is the first time I'm this side of that camera. I'm used to watch all these presentations from the internet. And but I feel more comfortable seeing that there's a lot of friendly faces in the room. So I feel a little bit more relaxed. When we were deciding which of the subjects we were to present, when Marx told us that it will be the month of André Luiz, this was the first topic that came to my mind. There was never a second option or a third option. This was the only one that appeared in my mind. And quite recently, I realized that we just had the carnival in Brazil. So then I start to be aware that this is completely in resonance to the importance of the force that we use during that time in Brazil, not always in a good way. The sexual instinct is one of the most powerful forces that we have as spirits in us. It will always be with us, always during our evolution, and even when we reach the angelical levels, we will still have our sexual instinct. The thing is, the way we understand the sexual instinct, or the way our society understands this, it's a very, how can I say, a unbalanced way. So we haven't been using this force the way it should be used. So we create diseases, we create very serious problems in our perispirits, and then we have to come back here and try to learn. So what we're going to do today is to take a peek of the science on the other side that has been brought to us by André Luiz. So the book that we're going to study today, that guy is a little slow, so we have to be patient.
Is it on?
Yeah, it is on.
Yeah, I think it's the computer. Yeah. Not even from here.
Yeah, I think he was sleeping.
It's Sunday.
Okay, so he jumped too much. Okay, so it doesn't want to go to the second one. So the book, I had it here. So it's Evolution in Two Worlds. Okay, this book, as we know, it hasn't been translated yet, or is in the process of being translated. So Chico Xavier, he psychographed together with Valdo Vieira 2 books. Well, a lot of books, but between those, this collection of books, I think it's around 400 books or something like that, right? Those 2 books, they stand out because they are very heavy, and they bring to us the science of the other side. So this book is very thin, and I've chosen only 1 chapter and a half. And in this 1 chapter and a half, we have an universe of knowledge. So I'm going to bring to you a little bit of that knowledge regarding how we should understand this powerful force. I just remember there's a camera there. This powerful force that we have in us, and sometimes we don't know how to control it, but we all have this force. So the first thing we need to understand is how our universe works. I chose this picture because you look at that and you see that there's a lot of movement. Our universe, which is the biggest thing we can think about, it's always moving. There's always a force behind everything. By the way, instinct generates force, and force generates energy. So I'm going to use those words interchangeably. Okay? Force times distance is energy. And the instinct is the force that we have that produces that energy. So when we think, what is it that makes this universe move? Scientists, through the ages, they realize this movement of universe. So the first one to create the equations or the mechanics to try to predict this movement was Sir Isaac Newton. So he published his book, Principia Mathematica. And in this book, he puts all the equations that we can predict where this planet will be a few weeks from now, where Mars is going to appear on the sky after 2 or 3 months. So he was the first one that realized that everything is. He wasn't the first one. He was the first one to create the predictions, the mechanics behind it. And even him, there was a problem in his equation that from his prediction, Earth will go around the sun a few times and then will go to the universe, will go in a tangent to the universe. And he said that God is always correcting with his finger, so it doesn't go away. He put that in his book. That was his understanding. There was a problem in one of the constants of his equation. He said that's the finger of God. God is always there. So they knew that behind all that there is God. So now this movement, it reflects in what we call dark energy. So we know that the universe is expanding, right? It's expanding. What is it that is behind this universe that is making it expanding? We don't know, so we call dark energy. It's another fancy term to say that it's the energy that we don't know nothing about. So we say dark energy. The other thing that is used by Stephen Hawking is entropy. So this disorganization. If I put a glass of water here and I let it there and don't do anything, the water is gonna evaporate. The glass is gonna break. The ceiling is gonna fall down on top of the glass. So this is what we call entropy. Things they became disorganized. You can try as much as you can to clean your house and to prohibit everybody to get inside with their shoes or scratch so they don't create dust. You can try everything you can, but you won't be able to keep your house clean. It's impossible. This is entropy. Everything is changing, always changing. And then comes André Luiz, and he tells us this is the cosmic fluid. This is the breath of God, as he says. So this is the first force that we feel in matter, is this cosmic fluid that permeates everything and is everywhere, and it is moving. It's rotating in such a way, and there's a frequency and a magnitude for that. And when we tune to this movement, to this universal movement, nobody needs to tell us that we are tuned with that. Nobody needs to tell us that that is right. We know it. We feel it. When we come here to the Spirit Center, or when we do charity, when we help people, we are tuning with this movement. And we know it's right. We know. Nobody needs to tell us. We know. Because we connect with our Creator, with this movement. So in this movement that we call the cosmic fluid, we find the divine creators, or what we would call the superior spirits, the angels, whatever we want to call them. And those guys, they have the perfect balance between the sexual instinct and their work, their capacity to create. So they receive this force that we call sexual instinct, and they apply that force in the same rate. So there's no storage in them. They receive and they apply. They receive and they apply, completely tuning with this movement of the cosmic fluid, or with God. So this is the point that we need to reach. So we're going to hold that thought. Those guys that have a very powerful sexual instinct and very powerful connection with God. and let's see how we can do, or what will be our path through them. So I told about this superior intelligences, but before we reach that, we are just intelligent principles. We are not. We are spirits, but we don't call spirits because we still don't have the continuous thought. We are just learning. So we are intelligent principles. So we are created. Imagine that the simplest way that we can imagine intelligent principle. We are created in the middle of this cosmic fluid. And when we are created, since the first instant, we feel two main things. First, the necessity to be together. We are together here today because we want to be together. We evolve as a civilization, not as a single guy. We want to be together. Our cells in our body, they're all together being commanded by us. So if we feel this, we want to evolve, we need to evolve, but we evolve together. We always feel more comfortable in a stress situation if there's more people with us. So if we are, in my case, for example, when I hate airplanes. So when I'm in the airplane, I'm flying, and I see there's that turbulence, and the plane starts shaking, and I look around and see everybody's relaxed. So okay. So then it shouldn't be that serious. So that helps me. So we have this, that we want to be together with each other. This is the first thing. The second thing, we start to receive a charge. We start to being charged by this cosmic fluid, or by this divine force from God since the beginning. We are created and we start being charged. If I take a battery and put on the table there, we know that battery is going to start to be discharged, right? There's always a leaking. There's an electron that goes from one pole to the other, leaking. He wasn't supposed to go there, but he goes anyway. And then we wait a little while, and then there's another one, until the two poles are balanced and there's no charge anymore. We are the opposite. We, as intelligent beings, we are always being charged. We are always receiving this energy from God. And this energy is what we call sexual instinct. We are here, we are sitting down, and we are being charged. We receive this energy. And we are supposed to use this energy to create. So then we always have two necessities, or two things that are intrinsic to our nature. Be together and create, or to work. Sometimes we feel very tired from work, and we take a few days vacation or holiday. But try to stay home 1 year. You start moving things around, you start painting the walls. You have to do something, because you never stop being charged with this energy that we call sexual instinct. So we need to use this energy. We receive this energy and we need to return it. It has to circulate in us. It's not supposed to stay stored in us. And that's idleness. Idleness or laziness. It's what is stored, this energy that's supposed to be returned, and then is when the problems start. So in the beginning, when we are very simple, we receive this charge, but the rate of the charge is very small, because we still don't know how to work. Imagine if I receive a high charge of this energy, but I look around and I don't know what to do. I would blow up. So what happens is, God allows us to receive this charge in a small rate, and He helps us how to create things. He helps us how to discharge, and that's what we call natural instinct. The animals, they are never idle. In a specific ecosystem, it's perfect in itself. It remains there, and there's a balance. The unbalance becomes when we go there and we mess around, right? Because we still don't understand the completely parameters and the variables in that ecosystem. But the animals, they don't really realize they are helped. They receive this energy in the small, or the, not just the animals, but just all the animals or all the living beings below our level of evolution. So they live in instinct. They receive the charge, and God helps them with the instinct how to use the charge. So the bird, he doesn't know what is a nest. He doesn't know he's a bird. But he creates the nest, and sometimes they're very crafty. That's instinct. There is intelligence behind them that helps them to discharge their energy. And then we start evolving.
That needs some extra energy.
Come on, help me out here. Okay. One more, please. Okay, there. So then I put here the fundamental particles. Okay, we call it fundamental because we don't know what it is inside. So when we start in the 20th century, there was the boom of particle and mechanical quantum mechanical physics, and we start probing in matter deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Then we built a machine that is 27 kilometers in diameter, just to try to see a little bit further. So if you want to go even further, maybe the machine is not going to fit on Earth. But so we cannot go. We still cannot go any further. So the limit of our seeing, it's what we call fundamental particles. So let's imagine that first we learn how to create those fundamental particles. Some of them we call quarks or leptons or something that I don't know what it is inside. It's just a small ball, or we think it's a ball. It's moving around. And so first we learn the intelligent principle, learn to do that, to create that small sphere. And then, of course, the intelligent principle needs to create and needs to be together with other intelligent principles. So they join together with other intelligent principles, and they start forming bigger particles. We call hadrons. And then, come on, okay. Then we learn how to form the atom. So it's already a complex system. And we have the nucleus with a lot of intelligent principles there, and we have another one that is circulating around. Well, we think it's circulating, it's appearing, popping here, popping there, popping here, popping there. But we still need, once we learn that, we have to keep creating. We have to keep joining with more and more and more individuals. So then we learn how to create molecules. So then there's a lot of atoms with a manager. There's always a manager, who is the guy that sees that he is a molecule. The atoms, they take care of the atoms, and there's a bigger one that sees, oh, this is a molecule. So I need to manage how those guys interact. And then we evolve a little more, and we learn how to create proteins. So this molecule moves now. This is the molecule that I'm using right now with my muscles. It moves. It's a molecule. But depending on the polarization, I can make it go this way, that way. And if I put a lot of them, I have strength. And then I evolve a little bit more, and I have life. Now I have homeostasis. It's a unicellular life. But I don't have organs yet, but I have organelles. I don't have legs, but I have pseudopods. So now we have life. Of course, there's a lot of gaps in there. There's a big jump from proteins to life. But I am trying to give you guys the main idea. We cannot study the whole evolution here, even though most of those gaps we don't know. There's a lot of theories how this little being came to be. Some of them they say, oh, it came from garbage, just popped out of garbage. Or others is the quaservados, is the atmosphere, and there's electric discharge, there's ammonia in the air, so they were created. There's a lot of things. And even the spirits, they say that we are still too young to understand that. The creation of the intelligent principle is too complex for us. So let's just accept this gap for now. We need to keep trying to probe there and try to understand, because that makes us evolve. But we kind of still far away from the answer. Then we learn how to put a lot of cells together. So then we have a multicellular life. And we advance even further, and then we have this very complex being. I put it there, the lions, because they have a pride, so they have families. They, when we are in that position in the evolution, we start to see each other. We not just want to be together, but we start to see the other spirit, the other intelligent principle, and we start to love. We start to understand. It's not just I want to be together because of myself, because I feel better, but I want to be together because I want to share. So it's not just the ego, or the we cease to be so selfish. Selfishness, it was very important for our survival in the jungle. But then we learn that the more we share, the happier we are. So it's not just important to survive, but to be happy as well. And in this position, in this situation, the sexual instinct, it becomes more complex. We start receiving higher charges because we have a higher intelligence. We start being more complex. We start executing more complex works. So the charge that we receive from the sexual instinct, or this godly divine force, it's higher. So we have to work more. And then we learn that there's two sides of the spirit that we need to master, the active and passive. So we need to learn how to be active, and we need to learn how to be passive. So we have this in life, situations where we have to act, and situations where we have to reflect, we have to think. And because we need to learn both of them perfectly, a very pedagogical way to create the learning process is to divide. So you come first and you try one, then you come later and you try the second. So then you have male and female. But you need to learn both. So you came several times as a male, but then you start getting tired, then you come as a female. So you need to learn both. So the spirit has to have both sexes. The sexes actually we divide them, but the spirit is always both. We have those two sides, and we have to master them, to know how to perfectly execute the active side and the passive side. But then we come male, female, male, female, male, female. The more we learn, the more they mingle, those two mingle together, until there will be a time where we won't have any of them separately. We will have both in a perfect balance. And when we have that, there's not going to be sexual act anymore. We're going to talk about the sexual act a little bit more. So in that situation, that level of evolution, it's the level where we don't need the reincarnation anymore. Of course, if there's no sexual act, there's no reincarnation. So we think about, oh, should I stop now? Should I stop doing that? You should stop by the same sense that you should stop eating. Should you stop eating? No, we're far from that. We know that that's, André Luiz tells us that that's the level that we're going to reach eventually. But let's be patient. Let's live our time now. So, this sexual instinct being divided now in two poles, because we need to learn those two tasks. We need to learn how to be active and passive. The necessity to create that is given to us by the sexual instinct and the necessity to be together creates the sexual act. All this joined together, it drives us to the sexual act. And then we generate or we create situations in which new beings can come to Earth. So we create families, we create harmony. So it's the sexual act, it's very important for our health. But there's a detail. we're gonna study a little bit more about that. So then we breach the limits of the animals or the intelligent principle, and we become spirits, or we become man. And in this stage, our field, it's continuous. We never stop thinking. Some people say that the animals, they don't think, or they don't have a soul. This is very ancient. I don't think people say that anymore. And they don't have intelligence. So if you guys have pets, you know that they're intelligent, right? They solve problems. They see things. The difference is the field, the thinking field it's in lapses. So it's not continuous. They have that moment, they see, they solve the problem, and then they retract back. They don't keep that going. If they had kept that, they would realize, oh, I'm a dog. I'm a dog here, that's my owner. So if I want something better, I must learn how to communicate with that person. So then it'll be much easier. So then I'm gonna learn to communicate. But then is a long process. And that pet or that animal doesn't keep the thinking going that much. It thinks and then it retracts, thinks and retracts. But when we reach the human stage, we never retract. We never stop. We're always thinking. So then we have storage of knowledge. Storage of knowledge is culture. So we start evolving. So the difference is that our field is always creative. It's always creating. It doesn't matter where we are. We change our surroundings just by thinking. We change that. We change matter. This is seen in quantum mechanics. If I think in something that I want to measure, that particle changes. If I think in something. We call this quantum entanglement. So we change matter with our thoughts. The thing is that for our sake, God made this matter so dense that it doesn't change that easily, because our thoughts are still very unbalanced. So if it was a little less dense and we could change all the time, we would destroy completely ourselves. So it needs to be dense. It needs to be hard. In this situation, when we are in the level of the one that we are now, humanity, the charge of the sexual instinct is very high. Now we reach the point where that force that we receive from God, that cosmical fluid that is always moving, that charges us with a much higher rate. So we are always being charged, because now we have intelligence and we have responsibility and we know how to work. We know what we have to do. We know how to help people. We know how to be useful in society. So our charge, our force is much higher. So we can say that our sexual instinct or our sexual energy is much higher than that, than the ones that we had before. So André Luiz, since he always tried to be very pedagogical when he writes all this, so that we can learn in a better way. He separates things. So we learn this and we learn that, and he puts together in the end. So when we reach this point, André Luiz, he divides in two paths. We have this very high sexual instinct, this sexual energy, and we have free will, and we have intelligence. He divides the choices that in the average that we make in two different paths, the horizontal and the vertical. So the horizontal is the one that I develop my intellect, and that's it. So I develop my knowledge about how nature works, but I'm still selfish. I still don't want to share that much. I do that for myself. But I still have this very high energy. And I have, since I'm not returning it, I have to discharge it. We have to. We feel that we need to discharge that. So then we look for partners to discharge that. And the detail that I said before during the sexual act is that it needs to have love. Love, it's what makes this discharge connected to God. So then it creates harmony. It emanates to the square of the distance, so it goes to the infinite. And if there's love, that discharge of the energy of those two people involves the home, involves the room, involves the family, and creates health, it creates harmony, it creates happiness. And if there is no love, where does that discharge goes? It's very powerful, very powerful. I'm thinking about myself, and that other person is thinking about himself or herself. So that discharge is not, that there's nothing channeling to the harmony. So it goes everywhere. So it's like that firefighter hose. That has 12 kilograms per square centimeter of pressure. So that's a lot. So if you try to hold it yourself, just one person, it's very hard. You have to be a very heavy person, very strong person. So if there's nobody holding that, where it hits, it breaks. It can break faces, it can break bones. But if you channel it, it can save lives. So that's our sexual act. It has to have love. So let's see the vertical path. So again, he divided in horizontal and vertical path. The vertical path is the path of virtue and love. We develop intellect. We have to develop everything, of course. But we also develop love. So we share. We learn for ourselves, but for the others too. So we discharge that energy that we are receiving. We don't discharge just for myself or just for relief, just for discharging it, but we are productive. I discharge that energy trying to help people, trying to create a better society, going to work every day and doing my job, knowing that I'm part of that society. If I don't do my job, there will be a gap in there. So that's discharging in the correct way our sexual instinct. So then we have the spiritual union. André Luiz tells us that since we have this passive and we have this active part, we are binary beings. Two beings, not 3, 4, 5. Two beings. We are binary beings. Monogamy. That's the optimal convergence of our sexual instinct. Two people. They are always attracted by their opposing energy. So the couples always have active and passive. Sometimes you say, but I'm seeing it's both males or both females. That's not what what they are is not what we see. Their energy is in the spirit, not in the body. We receive the body that we need in order to go through our mission here or our duties here. The energy is in the spirit. So in a sense, the sex, it's in the spirit, is in the energy that that person exteriorate the field. Okay? There's always that. Not if you want to see if the person is active or passive. Well, actually, it's very hard for us to identify that, because when we think we identify, the person changes. We change that. We reach a point where we are learning to execute our field in both sides. So sometimes we are active, sometimes we are passive. We have a predominance. We still have a predominance because we're still in learning. But the couples, they are always from different sexes. Always. Doesn't matter what we see. And if we have love, this love will align our sexual energy with our Creator. The thing is, just take a little bit more water. In the level that we are now, even if we are in this vertical path, we love, we have our partner, and we work a lot. We do charity. We work in our professions. We are active in society. Still, we still don't know how to charge all of our creative energy. We still haven't reached that point yet. The income of energy is still higher than the outcome. We still have energy stored in us. So this amount of energy that we cannot discharge just by working, sometimes because our body is a limitation, we get tired. So we have our limitations. This is the storage energy, is the energy that we discharge by the sexual act with our partner. So that amount of energy is going to be discharged in sharing with that other person with love. So then we use in a good way. It's not going to be just a waste of energy. We're not going to be doing just by relief, but because we love. So that is going to produce children. It's going to produce a happy family. So we learn from the animals when we were in that living on just on instinct, that we can discharge this amount of energy that is still stored on us by touching a few points on our body or in our perispirit. That's what it really happens. As you know, that if you disconnect in mind, it doesn't matter if the person is touching your body. It doesn't matter. So it's the perispirit. We use our body, but the connection with the perispirit. So those persons, those two people, they know how to do that. They know each other. So they excite each other, and we start a resonance effect. So the two fields, they are coupled together, and they start increasing in magnitude. And keep increasing. A resonance effect is like that. It keeps increasing until something breaks. So then, when you reach the maximum point, it then is when we discharge. So there's a short, high magnitude burst of energy, and it goes everywhere. It flows through our bodies, and it saturates every cell of our body, and involves our home, involves the building, and it keeps going. Of course, decreasing by the square of the distance, but it keeps going towards the infinite. So we know that once the rate of the energy that is charged is the same as the rate of the energy that is going out, so when the income will be equal to the outcome, then we won't have this stored energy anymore. So we won't have the necessity for the sexual act, because we'll be both completely productive all the time. That's why when we do gospel at home, we have to set a time. Those guys are busy. They never stop. They don't need to stop to eat lunch or to take a nap. They don't. They are always in tune with this movement of the universe. So what we feel, that's how I interpret the words of André Luiz. It's hard to understand, but that's how I interpret. What we feel in the ecstasy, sexual ecstasies, is what those guys feel all the time. During the sexual ecstasies, when we love, again, I always put effort in this, or emphasizes this word, because it's importance. We have to channel this energy. So when this is well channeled and we have this discharge, we connect to this big movement, and we feel that happiness, that thing that is so good. Something went there. So we feel that, and that makes us feel so good. It seems that we can go to work, we can create, we can solve every problem of the world, because we are connected to that energy. We are using our creative energy in a good way. So we have the force of the sexual energy, and we are connected to God, towards it, through this energy. So when this energy is the same, the energy that is coming in is equal to the one that is going out, it's when we are always in this ecstasy stage. So do you think those guys that they are always creating, they regret they don't have sexual act anymore? They don't need that. They're always happy. They're always happy. They don't have storage energy. The spiritual union is still there. They still love each other. There could be still a couple. They're still together. They're working together. But they just don't need to discharge their energies anymore. There's no need for reincarnation. They are over that situation. They're in the other worlds. If they need a world. Maybe they're just going around the universe. So that's a good thing to think about, but it still is very far away. Again, it's the same thing as eating. So if you think about, I should stop. So when we reach that point, we're not going to be eating anymore. Maybe not even water. So we still need both. So this is the vertical path. Now let's see the other one. The horizontal path. So it's the one that I still receive a huge amount of charge from the sexual instinct, but there's no love, or there's very little. So the discharge is very selfish. We still know how to discharge it. We know the points that we have to touch. But I'm thinking about myself, and the partners think about themselves. So when there is the resonance effect, the fields, they grow. But when they reach the magnetic discharge, there's no love to guide that. So that very powerful energy circulates through us with nothing to guide it. So imagine that. It's one of the most powerful forces that we have in us. And there's nothing to guide it. Then becomes the diseases. People even damage their brains, the decodification organ that we receive from our mind. So then we don't know what is real, we don't know what's not real anymore. I believe there is one sickness, I think it's syphilis, that they used to call the French disease, which in the higher stage it would drive the person mad, and it was sexually related. So some of the worst diseases that we have, they are sexually related, because it's a powerful energy. It's a creative energy. We receive that energy in order to create. So if it's not being channeled, it's going to create anyway. But what is going to create? There is nothing to guide it. So, diseases. So it's just a waste of energy. We're just wasting energy. We're not creating anything. We're not discharging in order to create something or to create harmony or health in our home. We're just seeking for relief. So that comes with idleness, if we are not active. If a person reaches this point, of course, we need treatment, we need help. But the best thing is that person, as soon as it has strength, go to work. Start working. Do volunteer work. Don't stay at home all day looking at the internet. Go do something. Because that person is being charged, as we do. All of us are receiving this force. So the imbalance comes from the stored energy that is not being channeled. So go discharge our energy in a useful way. That's the best treatment. Come on. Maybe it's when the picture is heavy. Okay.
There you go.
There we go. So I believe you guys know who this one is, right? This is a cell. Why am I showing you a picture of a cell? Because those are the guys who make up our body. So we have 300 billions of them. covering our body, and they execute all sorts of tasks. Our body is a colony. We have a lot of cities. There's the city of liver, there is the city of kidney, and their religion is us. We are their God. They receive their commands from somewhere. They have no idea where it is, but they receive those commands that come through hormones that circulate in something that they call blood. So they receive the orders. And those guys, if you take a cell and you put a petri dish and you keep in 37 or 36 degrees and you change the fluid every now and then to keep that cell alive, it's gonna stay there idle for a while, but then it's gonna start moving as an amoeba. So it moves away from toxins and moves towards food. So it wants to live. It's a living being. We teach children that when we die, we change. It's like changing clothes. So we leave those clothes and we go to the spiritual world. But now we are able to understand that it's not just clothes. It's those. We need to love those guys here. They depend on us. They receive every little thought that we have, and they behave accordingly. If they are living in the city of liver, so all of them know that they have to work together as a liver. They need to reproduce the cells of a liver, not other cells. They have the capacity to reproduce other cells, but they need the order to reproduce just liver cells. And if there's this powerful force, that this powerful discharge goes around with no guidance, and those guys, they get very confused. Am I still a liver? And then they start reproducing, or there's one, the revolutionary guy. So they reproduce in a way that is not a liver cell. Maybe it's a skin cell. But there's no one to guide that guy back. And then he creates another one. He starts to contaminate. So it's a revolutionary. That's why I said it starts to creating guerrilla effect. So then he creates another one, and there's no one again to bring that guy back. So then we have cancer. It's our body. But that's that energy, that's very powerful energy that's going around making those guys very confused, and there's no channeling or guiding. If there's love, those guys feel this, not the same, a much more powerful energy because it's connected to God. The difference is this energy is bringing them back to balance if they were kind of unbalanced. So it creates harmony again. That's why they say that people that are in love, they never get sick. It's true. We're always balancing and reharmonizing ourselves. It's like a very powerful self-pass. So those guys are very, very important. And something, I don't know, may shock you or not, they continue with us even when we discarnate. What makes our perispirit? Oh, it's a much less dense material or semi-material involucrum. Those guys are there too. We still have organs. If they are sick here, they're going to be sick there. They are still with us. Of course, they have little small bodies too. So then they decay together with our body. But the spiritual involucrum that they have will still compose our perispirit. There's a whole chapter in this book that André Luiz tells us the process of those guys discarnating and creating our new perispirit. He called cadaverization process or spiritual histolysis or whatever this is. Very technical terms that he used. So those guys are the ones that suffer the most when we don't know how to use our sexual energy. Last one.
We need 3 light years to
Yeah.
get there.
Oh, good, perfect. So to sum up, we have again the same phrase, the same sentence that we see over and over and over again. The word charity means that we are discharging our energy or sexual instinct or sexual force or sexual energy in a good way. There's no charity if we don't move or if we don't work. Nobody does charity sitting down all day. It's not real charity. There's nothing actually. It's idleness. So charity, it's the good use, and it has to be connected to love, or there's no charity. So again, we have this sentence with a whole new meaning. Without charity, there is no salvation. So without working or being creative, tuned with love, there is no freedom of our suffering. So what I mean today is that let's look at the way the sexual energy has been used by our society, and let's evaluate that. And even though we are a small community, let's use our example. We have this sacred energy being used to sell things, sell shows on the TV. It's very cheap, and it's being used in what André Luiz called in the horizontal way. And it's creating a lot of anxiety, psychological issues, physical issues. So let's reevaluate ourselves and see how much of that we are helping and try to rechannel our energy. Remember that I'm not preaching celibacy. Celibacy is like you have a 18-wheeler truck going downhill without a brake, and I'm there with a stick trying to make it stop. It's a very powerful energy. Celibacy is going to come when we stop eating. So when it's something that belongs to more evolved spirits, and it has to come naturally. It's not something that you just cut. It comes naturally. So sexual act is still something very important for us. It's very healthy, but always with love. Always. That's always the most important thing. Love. Love and be useful. That's it. Thank you.
Rafael, you gave us so much to think about. My head is spinning.
Mine too.
Any comments or questions from anyone here? Or anyone on the internet, any comments or questions, please feel free to type over there.
Yeah, I have a question. In order to try to comprehend, for instance, in our own, how to apply this in our own lives. For instance, we all have, as you say, that energy, and we all need to use in a positive way. And then you say that the sexual energy doesn't have to do necessarily with the sexual act, but it has to do with that practice of love, right? How is that anywhere that you were in your studies? That for sure you did, study a lot for that. You can see how does it apply, for instance, in our family constellations. How can we apply that in that in that cosmos? Because we're talking about that community, for instance. How is this energy being used
in the family?
In our families, for instance. More than a couple, right?
I don't think I have to tell you guys that being a parent demands a lot of work. So that is a wonderful use of this energy. Because you are helping, imagine this. The parents, they accept the responsibility to receive a new being and being responsible for that being in the first years of their incarnation. That is a lot of work. A lot of work. You have to be creative, you have to be patient, you have to talk, you have to spend a lot of energy. So that is a wonderful use of our sexual energy. And of course there will be the sexual act. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, if there's love, even the children will feel that discharge, which will be full of love, and it's going around the family, and it's going to make everybody happy, even though the ones that are there, they don't even know what's happening, but they're going to feel that field going around. So this is one thing. The other thing is that we need to maintain our house. So we need, we work to pay our bills, and that means that we have to be active in society, and for that also we need to discharge our sexual energy. So that's what comes to my mind now. So there's a lot to do in our families. Sometimes even we need to spend energy when there's agreements. And we need to spend even more energy. We know that we all feel tired. So this is our sexual energy being used as a good way to create harmony and happiness for everybody. And that doesn't happen if we don't love. I don't know if I answered your question.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
it's because, just if I may,
Okay,
that
keep
is
going.
very interesting, because what you're telling me shows, for instance, in the reincarnation, when we have the transformation of that sentiment, for instance, sometimes when we are, only using that energy in that horizontal way,
Yeah.
and then in the reincarnation process, we change roles in our families, for instance, in order
Oh,
to
yes.
help ourselves to channel that energy that is sexual from the horizontal
Yeah.
to the vertical path, which in a graphic is always like that.
Uh-huh.
So then we have that transformation of that energy that could go only instinctually
Exactly.
directed to a more, superior way to express that energy. That's what came to my mind. But yes, what
If
you're
we
saying.
have a situation where a spirit has gone through this horizontal path, we all go through that some way. That what takes us away of that path is suffering. So it hurts. So then, this is not good for me anymore. So then we start climbing the hill. But if you have a spirit that has gone through this path a long time, probably he's gonna come with some kind of sickness. Because in consequence of that continuous discharge of unbalanced and untuned energy. As I showed the cells, there are those little guys, they don't know how to behave, and then they're going to stay with that spirit, and then they're going to come back with that spirit. So then they come in the middle of that family with a child who has some kind of problem, and that again demands even more creative energy from the parents, creative energy and love from the parents, to help that spirit to evolve. So that spirit will be loved, it will be taken care of, and he's going to learn how to give his steps towards the vertical path. So this is all sexual energy, sexual instinct that we use tuned with love for God.
That's André Luiz. It's just amazing, right? You make us see this sexual energy as a creational energy, right? Something sublime that is all over the place around the universe. And there's nothing wrong with the variances of that energy, including the sexual energy, right? I remember, I think on the Missionaries of Light, when André Luiz went to the spiritual world and saw a mock-up, or a representation of the human body with nuances that very different than he was able to observe as a doctor in the world. And one of the instructors told him, right, so now you can see why the human body is considered this super marvelous machine who can replicate, right, our bodies. And our bodies are, Emmanuel says that, is a sanctuary for the soul to create, to transform, and to evolve. So there's nothing wrong and sinful with sex as we grew up thinking about that, right? The whole issue is that when we use that whole energy closer to the instincts of the animal, even the animals, they use it in that balanced flow. Right? There's a purpose. But you're talking about the carnival and all the absurds that we do, right? That's the problem. We use it in that vertical way. And that's why we create unbalance and pain and diseases and depression and all those negative things. It's not because God created to be like that. There's a purpose, right? The energy, the sexual energy is what bonds us together, the families together. And we learn to control over time, right? When we are young and teenagers and the hormones come, it's the whole world, right? The amount of energy we have a hard time controlling, and over time it fades away to the point that we control it, and we learn that love is actually the most important thing. I'll make an analogy here. I bought a snowblower recently, a Brazilian in Canada. 7 years, I gave up, I bought a snowblower. So yesterday I had to use it. So I turned the snowblower on, and there's a button over there to give an extra dose of gas, so it will fire it up in the minus 20, minus 30 Celsius, right? So it ran and started, and I immediately thought about shutting down the extra dose of gas, the afogador, I forgot the name, right? So I shut it down, the engine, blah, 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 blah. I said, oh, I should have waited a little bit until the engine warmed up, right? So I turned it on and turned the engine on and wait a few minutes, and then once the engine was warm enough, I turned it down a little bit, and then I did the work. It's like the sexual energy for us as couples, right? At the beginning is the physical attraction, the passion, right? Much more on the instinct. And obviously there's a dose of love, but I can tell that actually increases tremendously over time, the love and the sexual energy we learn to control. It's still important, it's still relevant, but it's not with that high importance as it was for us when we were teenagers. And that's why, you were saying that over time, when we evolve as spirits, we would not have that need for that sexual contact, physical, because we don't need to reincarnate anymore. And we transform all that energy into love. Think about Jesus Christ. Right? He didn't need to marry anyone. He came here and he exemplified love at the utmost level that we will achieve one day. Right? So he transformed all the energy into love, and we'll get there one day. But it's marvelous. This book and all that you brought to us is just amazing. And it's a big responsibility for us to think about how we are using that love, how we are also helping others to understand how to use that love. If you think about a physical beauty, it's not by accident that I came as beautiful as I am today, right? I could be in a cover of a magazine, for example. I decided not to. But jokes aside, that's all we think, right? If we are born beautiful, that sexual instinct and our own vices and impulses, we go to that side. We forgot that maybe the physical beauty is a test, right? And then we go through the unbalanced sex, we go through the vertical, and we go to the horizontal, we forgot the vertical, right? So it's very important to us. And I remember again Emmanuel when he was saying about the need for us to be together, right? The couples, the union. And there was a question, I think from Chico in his meetings in the book of Consolador, the Consoler, and they asked what would happen if we abolished the marriage, the relationships, the monogamy on earth. He said it's going back to the animal state, where there's no relationship, there's no commitment, there's no partnership, right? It's even worse, as I said. In animals, they have that balance, but we are spirits, we have conscience, we have sentiments, we love. So it's going back to that. So we have to use sex responsibly, right? And I'll shut up now in a minute. But I can't help but think about that. Again, Emmanuel and Chico Xavier describe our homes as a 90 degrees angle, where between the couples there is always the responsibility with earthly things, our work, our health and cleaning, right? And there is the responsibility with God, with the universe, with our mission on earth. So we have to have that balance, right? So as everything, when we have the lack of balance, there are diseases, there are pain, until we are able to go back to that. Any other questions? Are we good? Fabio, did you have a question? All right. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, guys.
Thank you to those who watched us through the internet. We are now going to the second and the last part of our meeting. We are going for our passes, which is a moment of energy transfusion, as Jesus taught us, imposing his hands. And as we spend a lot of time talking about energy, so we are starting our passes right now, and we will end our webcast right now. So I want to say thank you to those who participated. We're looking forward to see you again. And we will just ask the kids to come. And we'll turn the lights down, put a little music.